Hey everyone, it's Gone Turbo. This video we're going to look at two mods that just came out not too recently, Divine Atmosphere and Divine Interiors. This is Divine Atmospheres in this screenshot here, and this is one of my favorite screenshots I've ever taken. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. This mod changes some of the cloud textures, it changes the rain and snow particle textures, changes water, changes to night sky, and also just an overall change to the lighting in Skyrim. You guys see my videos, I talk a lot about different lighting overhauls, weather overhauls that change lighting, kind of like ENBs. And this mod does that in its own unique way. The shot you see here, just want to mention that Realistic Waters 2 can still be used and overwrite the water that this mod does change, which we'll see in just a second. But there are many positives to this mod, and there are some things that, in terms of my recommendations, are I don't want to say negative, but not exactly what I would like to have in my particular game, my particular load order. So here's a shot of the water that it changes, and it adds a little bit of a reflective look here on at least this clear day, kind of that reflective shine on top of the waves there. So if you don't want Realistic Waters 2, you want a more comprehensive mod that includes a change to the water, then this is something that this one does offer. Here's a very bright midday shot here, and one thing in my videos is I keep to the display enhancement settings that I have. So I haven't touched what I set for display enhancements. The midday shot here to me is a little bit, I think the evening and morning shots, or the way this mod looks in the evening and the morning in terms of the lighting, is really good. But the midday, things still seem a little bit dark in some areas, light in some areas, and kind of a little bit, I don't know how to say it, kind of washed out in other areas. I still think that Vivid Weathers does the best job at lighting the world of Skyrim in a saturation contrast kind of way to make graphics and atmosphere really the best. So here's just kind of a series of some of the weather particle changes that this mod offers. And I do like the way that things look, especially this kind of stormy downpour right here, with kind of the mist in the background and the rain just pouring down. It looks really, really great. More of a light rain right here. So there is a noticeable unique difference with this compared to Vivid Weathers, compared to Rustic, compared to Dolomite. I can definitely tell that with playing this a little bit that it is a different and unique look compared to all of those other mods. So I would recommend checking this out if you're not wanting to use something as big as Vivid, because I would give this, if I were to kind of rank, this would be my number 2 lighting and weather mod if I was not using Vivid Weathers. You guys know I'm quite dedicated to Vivid Weathers. But these cloud textures look so realistic and absolutely amazing. I was just completely blown away when I was first putting this shot together here of how great this looked. I wish some of these elements could be bundled right into Vivid Weathers. It's not too often a mod comes out where I'm like, wow, this could be a potential new change to the load order. So here's a nighttime shot. The mod author states that he purposefully wants to add a little bit of fantasy to this mod, and the night sky definitely offers that. The stars are a little bit more pointed in a twinkly kind of way. However, they don't really technically twinkle, so if you stare at the sky, it's a little bit more poster-like because the stars are a little bit bigger and kind of more pointed. This is a clear night, obviously, and the surrounding is very blue, kind of like what you might see in a movie where there's a nighttime scene where you need to kind of see everything. But I prefer a kind of a real pitch black kind of look to my game, more realistic. So here's my overall thoughts on Divine Atmospheres. my turbos tallies. I love the clouds, absolutely amazing. I love the rain and snow textures. I like the fact that there's change to the water, but it still could be overwritten by realistic waters too if you wanted to keep that. The night sky and the blue thing to the night, not a fan of just personally. I like the more realistic pitch black kind of look. And then again, the lighting, you know, kind of a plus and minus there. If I didn't use Vivid Weathers, I would use this mod. I would use this over Rustic and Dolomite and all of the other ones. It does look really, really nice. The evenings, the mornings, the clouds. The lighting isn't bad. I'm just not a fan of how the daytime lighting has kind of come out compared to Vivid. It's very hard to explain, but again, in my opinion, sometimes the graphics just seem a little fuzzier with some of these other weather overhaul lighting mods, and Vivid seems to not have that kind of fuzziness to some of the daytime lighting shots. So those are my thoughts on Divine Atmospheres, and let's check out Divine Interiors. All right, so in this section of this video for Divine Interiors, I got a couple of different scenes here that the best way I could figure this out is to kind of talk you through the changes, because the cool thing about this mod is that the changes are so subtle. A lot of positives in my opinion, and I'm probably going to keep this in the load order for a little bit to play around with it and see. The downfall, I'll just start with that, is that these big fire pit areas are quite orange. So I'll kind of show you some examples of that. But other examples are really, really awesome. So these beams, these sunbeams coming through the slats here, kind of foggy and misty, are just one example of what this mod does for some of the changes. Really, really cool. I had to play through the game without this mod and then with the mod to find out what the comparisons are, and it was kind of like playing I Spy. I couldn't quite pick up on all of the things at first unless you really look at the details. So over some of the lighting sources, like these tables, if you look over the tables, I'm not just staring at the wall here, there's kind of a light smoky kind of mist that takes place over some of the lighting sources. A little bit thicker over here, just adds a little bit of ambiance to the game. That I think is totally awesome. That kind of sun coming through with the mist, that is totally sweet. That's something that the mod does. And I'm just finding that there's all these little things that within each building, and it's so various. It's so unique and so various. So in the Bannered Mare, I kind of went through and was like, what's changed? And I had to do a little bit of comparison of both before I could really notice it. Now, coming through Dragon's Reach here, this quick run through of the kitchen is not with the mod, just because I want to show you a little bit of a comparison. So here's the kitchen area. You can see there's a little bit of shadowing from the character. It's kind of bright in here. There's a little bit of shadowing on the wall with the beams as we kind of go through. In just a moment, we'll go through it with the mod. And again, the changes are pretty subtle. So again, the fire pit, very orange. And as I was playing, like even the table was very orange and not so much brown compared to it without. So that was like some of that kind of smoke rising over the fireplace areas is new and definitely cool. So as we get into the kitchen, this is where it really comes into play. You can see on the wall and on the floor, the shadows from the beams are much more pronounced. But the brightness on the character faces as the sun is coming through these tall windows is really realistic and very accurate. I just think it looks really, really cool. So again, walking into this room, wouldn't have expected something like that at all. And that's what's really kind of cool about this mod, is that you just kind of see these new things that you didn't see before. Now here's the tavern or an inn. This is the one in Riverwood. You can see a little bit of flickering there, which I did notice in this particular place. But you can see the kind of the light coming through the windows. Looks really neat as you kind of go through here. And for an inn, where there's not a lighting source, it's a little bit darker. So a little bit more drab inside the inn here. Kind of makes a little bit of a Halloween face on the character there, but a little bit more realistic lighting inside the inn here, other than the flicker that's kind of occurring there. Something that needs to be looked into. But some of these rooms here, I just the overall work in this mod, I think, is fantastic. And again, other than the very orangey fire pits, I'm going to keep this in the load order for a while and kind of see what happens. So here we are inside of a cave mine, and showing off that fire pit there. It does some work with shadows, as we saw in the kitchen there. Coming into this mine at first, it was around the torches, very orangey. But again, you don't really know what some of the changes are because they're in the details. I did visit another cave where lighting that was coming through an opening in the ceiling was totally different than without, and it looked really awesome. So some more of my tallies here. Overall, great lighting enhancements, but it's all in the details. Details. You don't know really what they are unless you really go through and do a comparison. And some places, like the kitchen within the Bannered Mare, absolutely no difference at all that I saw. The smoke effects are cool. Just some of the different shadows and the way the lighting kind of comes through the windows is really awesome. Again, I did visit a cave, and there were some areas where lighting coming in through some of the ceiling cracks or the cave. I don't know, like when light comes through the tops of caves and big open areas was different. That was noticeable, which was really cool. The only drawback, again, I've said a million times in this thing, very orangey around the big fire pits. But right now, I'm going to keep this in my load order, play around with it a little bit more. Make any changes to taking it out, I'll let you guys know. But that's what I want to share you guys with these two mods, and I hope it has been helpful. All right, peace out.